what in the world is happening with Deshaun Watson and what the next 2.5 weeks is all about. I guess the latest is that the FBI is either looking into him for the claims or because he's being extorted. I mean, it's just all over the place. He's just showing up, doing nothing, it seems. It's crazy, man. I don't know what to make of it. Can you help me and anybody who's paying attention to this out?
Yeah, I think the FBI stuff from last week is just another layer of what the hell that really doesn't take away from the fundamental problem right now as it relates to Deshaun Watson's status. He's got these 22 civil claims, 10 criminal complaints. They are taken very seriously. They need to be taken very seriously. And no team is going to come close to giving the Texans what they would want to trade for Deshaun Watson now, because you give up all these draft picks and you have a guy who may get indicted, could get convicted. We just don't know. So any of the teams out there that would be interested, whether it's the Eagles, the Dolphins, the Panthers, or the Broncos, and those are the ones that come up now, they're not going to make the kind of offer the Texans clearly want, and the Texans aren't going to do a fire sale. So they have to figure out a way to reach some sort of an understanding with Watson, because he clearly isn't interested in playing for the Texans. And the Texans seem to be okay with that. You know, the concept of the hold-in that we've had with Jamal Adams and Stephon Gilmore and Dwayne Brown and Xavier Howard for a while. Teams are okay, and T.J. Watt, teams are okay with the guy being there and not practicing. Now, it's different with Deshaun Watson. He's not looking for a new contract. He's looking for a new team. But so are the Texans. So they seem to be okay with him not playing. And we're going to learn a lot next Tuesday. After they cut the 53, I think what they're going to do after that, they're going to find a way to stash him on injured reserve and keep him all year long, keep him until the legal cloud goes away for a criminal prosecution. I don't think that happens until after the season at the earliest.
Wow.
And then they'll trade him. They'll trade him once they know that he won't be prosecuted or that he's indicted and he strikes some sort of a plea deal. Because I think that's what will happen. If he gets indicted by a grand jury, there will be a plea deal because the prosecutor will not believe that the ability to meet the very high standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt can be satisfied. So whatever happens, it's going to take time. And I think the Texans are content to pay him $10 million this year, knowing that they're going to get that huge return when they finally trade him, whether it's March of 2022 or March of 2023 at the absolute latest.
Well, what is the legal back and forth? Because, again, let's lean on your law degree here. What is the legal back and forth going on right now behind the scenes between both parties here? Because, again, there is no criminal charge that's out here. This is all a civil case as it currently stands, correct? And the question that I have is I'm assuming, Watson wants this cleared up right away so he could get his football life in more array for somebody to come get him, right? So what is that back and forth like right now?
Well,
best you can
and
tell
let me try to tie the two threads together,
Please.
Civil and criminal. I personally believe that from the get-go, when Deshaun Watson's representatives were first made aware of the initial allegation before a lawsuit was filed and a demand was made of $100,000 to settle it, they mishandled that situation. What they should have done at that point, sit down with Watson, figure out how big of a problem this is, figure out whether or not there are others out there that may be able to make similar claims, figure out whether it makes sense to engage in a back and forth. In my own experience practicing law, somebody demands $100,000 out of the gates, you're settling it between 50 and 75. By the time you go, it's negotiation. I hate that it boils down to that because these are important allegations. It's an important situation. But between the lawyers, it's I want 100, I'll pay you 25. I'll drop to 90. I'll go to 30, and you go back and forth until you get somewhere between 50 and 75. If they'd have done that, this all may have never happened. Tony Busby, the lawyer who represents the 22 women, got upset because he thought he was disrespected, and off we go. And I mention that because that ultimately led to the criminal complaints. And a grand jury eventually is going to take up these cases. The subpoenas have gone out. We don't know if it's subpoenas for people to show up and testify or just to produce documents. Once there are subpoenas to testify, that's when we know that the grand jury, which operates on a quarterly basis, there are 4 grand juries in Harris County, Texas at any given time. There's no timetable for this to go forward in the immediate future. But now the civil cases take a back seat. The criminal case is the thing that is keeping the interested teams from saying, hey, Texans, we'll give you what you want, and we'll bear the risk that he gets indicted and prosecuted and potentially convicted for one of these charges.
And meanwhile, one of the most talented players in the National Football League and one of the most popular faces of a franchise over the last several years sits and might not play until 2022, regardless.
Exactly. And they're going to pay him $10 million to do it.
Wow.
And Rich, here's my I don't want to call it a conspiracy theory because I hate that term now. I used to like it,
Sure.
but I never want to use it.
Mm-hmm.
If the league was thinking about putting him on the commissioner exempt list, and this is all a PR tool to get the heat out of the hot kitchen when you have a guy who's facing allegations, not anything proven, just allegations, and we don't want him on Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, Sunday after. It's not good for the brand,
Sure.
Not good for the Shield. Well, if the league knows that the Texans are already kind of doing that anyway, why don't you just let the Texans know, you know what, probably a good idea. If you're content to hold him, if you're content to stash him on IR, if you're content to pay him $10 million this year, and he's content to do it, let's just do that. Then we don't have to create an AP story, fodder for Rich Eisen, Dan Patrick, everyone else to talk about how Deshaun Watson got put on paid leave. It's the same spot without having to incur news cycle after news cycle of discussion about, well, why did the league put him on paid leave? They should have done it. They shouldn't have done it. It just kind of naturally happens because that's how the Texans are going to handle it anyway. So I really wonder whether or not there was some sort of back channel understanding that the league will stand down as long as this situation will unfold with the Texans paying him to not play and Deshaun Watson happily not playing and still getting paid.